It keeps coming back to views, but because it has to be compelling. So it's like the view-through rate has to be really high. And I think we see that ourselves. We create the content, it's done in a video format, we embed the brand, and we call out like the KPI that the clients are requesting.
Before we jump into today's episode, I have to talk to you about the biggest affiliate marketing event on the East Coast. That is Affiliate Summit East. It is going down in New York City at the Marriott Marquis, August 4th through the 5th. This is the event that you need to be at if you're an affiliate, if you're a publisher, if you're driving traffic, whatever it is. If you're in the affiliate space, this is the event that you need to be at. I will be there. We'll be bringing the Boost Show there, doing live interviews. You're going to meet so many incredible people. The next person that's going to help you to grow your business. And right now, listeners of the Boost Podcast can get a big discount of 15% off of your ticket. Just use the code BOOST15. That's BOOST15. I cannot wait to see you in New York at Affiliate Summit East. Hey guys, welcome back to the Boost presented by Grommet, Giddy Up, and Affiliate Summit. We are here on the Affiliate Summit West floor, hanging out with Hannah Buitekant, and I'm so excited to talk to you, learn everything that you guys are doing over at Daily Mail and all of your properties. How are you doing today?
I'm actually full of cold. It's so much talking, so much nervous, so many people here. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, I'm running out of voice, but I'm going to give it my all go.
I love that. Do you come to all the Affiliate Summit shows, or are you picking and choosing?
I'm a novice. No, this is my second. I did PI Live last year. We did the Affiliate Summit this year. But my team are here always establishing and building relationships. So it's great to be here this year.
I love that. Well, give us the big picture overview of what DMG Media is, who you guys represent, and what you guys are up to right now.
Yeah, so DMG Media, our core brand is the Daily Mail. It's our global brand. And we also cover the Metro, iNews, New Scientist, and a number of other smaller titles. But yeah, the heritage brand is really the Daily Mail. We have 300 million monthly visitors to our properties. 160 million of them are in the US. So doing like a big pitch right now of like a roadshow for the US markets to really establish ourselves, because we are a really significant brand.
How global is it? Is it really just US and like Europe, UK, or is it kind of global?
We have a really big presence in Australia, so it's very much global. It's not like local language, so it's all in English. But that's it. That's our footprint.
We're going to talk a lot about audience and how you guys build audience, how you think about audience, which is really important. What do you think drives those hundreds of millions of people to want to come to a publication like Daily Mail?
Like, we build for the audience first. Like, the audience is like everything to us. Without an audience, we have nothing. Yep. So it's really about like following like what's trending right now. We're really focused on like diversifying audiences. We don't depend on just like our loyal core, although 50% of our users come directly to us, which I feel is such a privilege and such a sort of a hat tip to the editorial team who are creating really compelling content every day. But then we slice that up and we distribute it across all of the emerging channels. So we're present across Snapchat and TikTok and Facebook and all of the Facebook properties within that, YouTube. We're looking at Reddit now, Pinterest, like we won't stop. So it really is about being, I think we're quite relentless in how we turbocharge our audience approach. We're really competitive. I mean, we're all vying for the attention of the consumer. I don't know about yourself, but even if I'm walking the dog, I'm listening to something, I'm scrolling on something.
Always.
I'm watching in mute just so I can like scroll into content. So we're really focused on being present wherever the consumer is, wherever they're consuming media. And I think we really advance on talent. Like, we just won't leave the talent alone. It's really important to have the right talent on the right platform so we can maximize our engagement, because the talent comes with a great following in itself.
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about that, in that there is such fragmentation into where different people want the news, want their entertainment, want to get the source. How do you guys think about that as far as like building your team and having people that understand what's happening on Snapchat and how that's different from writing for Google and how that's different for writing for something like a Perplexity or a ChatGPT? Like, how do you think about that internally? And then how do you allocate resources for that?
That's a really good question.
It's a really tough question, right? I gave you the hard one first. So
we try and keep it simple. We use like the 3 R's really, which is about like, we're recognizable, right? We're like 125 years plus experience in like publishing and building a relationship with our consumers, our customers. So obviously that's from a print heritage, and that's expanded. But obviously that comes with authority, and it's expanded over time as like, we went into like magazine business, then we launched online, we had a huge online presence. So that's about, we're really, I think, fortunate that it's so well recognized and that it's editorially led, it's a voice of authority, it's well researched, takes us into sort of the reliability.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what you're going to get when you see the Daily Mail. It will be verified, authenticated, authoritative, like information, well-sourced, well-researched, but not necessarily opinionated. So it sort of enabled us to have a real scaled approach and be like popular content.
Yeah.
We sort of like talk about being seriously popular and sort of embeds the two of like the news and the cultural together. And it's repeatable, right? You slice that up. So you take something relatively boring, like tax updates, and you say, okay, like you deep dive into the newspaper and you have a really intricate like breakdown of what does this mean for you by region, by state, etc. And then you like slice it up and you make it more interactive online, right? So you like, so what does it mean in your state? How popular is it? What does the impact look like by demographic? And then you slice it up into maybe a pop, like Vox Pop on the street for TikTok. So it's just really, I think, about like resonating for audiences and slicing up depending on the platform.
I want to talk about that just for a second, kind of that repeatability, right? So does it start somewhere? Does it start with an idea, an editor, a writer pitching something? It goes to the .com or it goes to email. And once it gets legs, it starts turning into other pieces? Or are you creating the piece with the intent that, all right, taxes is going to go, this is a flagship piece for the site, and then we're also going to turn this into other content? Like, do you think about it from a success metric first before you slice and dice? Or are you going into the content piece thinking, how can we create this for the different verticals?
I mean, I'm definitely not the editor. It's a great question for him. But what I see happening is that they have conference, right? And they all talk about the subject matter and what's trending and what's popular right now. They look at that from search trends to organic trends to what's like competitor trends. And then they'll take that story on. It might be that the social desk is, how can they repurpose it or reinterpret it? They might do something completely standalone and do their own following. Like crime is really popular, obviously, as a savvy, a tragic like news agenda, but actually is a really popular sort of documentary following for our podcast audience or our social audience, which is something we don't tend to do too much of like online within content. Yeah. So yeah, to your question, like sometimes it is sort of like thinking about what's popular at scale, and then sometimes it's intricate, like siloed approach.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about monetization, right? Because that's the fun part. Like, how do we monetize all this content we're creating? You've kind of got three pillars with that. There's commerce, video, and then premiumization. Did I say that right? Premiumization. I love that. Let's start with commerce. How do you guys think about commerce as it pertains to these properties?
Yeah, commerce has been incredibly popular for us for the last 7 years. Like, as we were like, I think obviously we were talking earlier about like affiliates versus direct selling. And I think commerce really launched from affiliate networks. It was all CPA. It was a small commission. And it was kind of an overlay to editorial content from sort of probably the magazine and the paper industry of linking. I mean, really sort of obviously the value of content is huge. ROAS is maximized in that environment. So then you see brands reaching out to them, can we work with you directly? And so for us, common day commerce looks like direct relationships with brands beyond just creating content for a website. It's about curating with our content creators, aka sort of influencers, extending that in the same way we do editorial. We slice that up, we make it relevant for every platform. And we sort of add on to that. We can do tenancies, so we can run it like, you know, everything's independently selected. But if you do want me to publish on a certain day to correlate with maybe a deal that you have, that will, you know, there's an upsell to that. And then on top of that, you might do licensing, which is really popular for publishers now, because when you put a brand with a really well-recognized brand like at the Daily Mail, uplifting conversion rates is like 20 to 25%. So it makes sense to start licensing against that content and buying against it. Well,
it's going to be huge because if a brand already has trust in the marketplace and then they're leveraging your trust, it's like this amplified connection to the audience, because if you're vouching for it or you're writing editorial around it, it just creates something for the reader that's got to say like, all right, I have to pay attention to this.
Yeah, exactly that. It's only statin. It goes back to the 3 R's really. Yeah. So it's like recognizable. You see, it's a Daily Mail. They're verified against this brand. We selected it because our consumers all love it, right? It's really important. We will never cover a brand that doesn't resonate with our consumers. It would just be to the detriment of our overall brand, and obviously then impacts our audience, and we have nothing again.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so there's the commerce piece. Then there's a video side of it as well. Where does video play into this?
Video is like, obviously it's mass market now because of the platform. So like you've got YouTube, you've got TikTok, you've got Snapchat getting into video, like you've got Facebook Watch, like all of these platforms are now like hugely scaling video, but it's all publisher content or creator content, of which I think publishers sit, the original creators. So yeah, video is propelling, but we're not quite sure that you think of monetization strategies. Most of those sit with the platforms and you can't control it. You want to think about how do you really increase the value of the audience, bring a brand on board, maybe via sponsorship or creating a series for them powered by video. Some thinkings about video slightly differently, not about click to play or pre-roll anymore, and not within the publisher landscape. I think it has to be about creator-led sponsorships, deeper integrations, and leveraging the power of the video asset.
And what do brands do? Why are brands coming to Daily Mail for the video side? Is it brand recognition? Because it's not really direct response. Because like you said, like it's not, the commerce isn't really happening on the platform. Yeah. So what's like success metric on the video side for both parties?
It's really about views. You see, but it keeps coming back to views, but because it has to be compelling. So it's like the view-through rate has to be really high. And I think we see that ourselves. We create the content. It's done in a video format. We embed the brand and we call out like the KPI that the clients are requesting. But you find it actually then, we talk about this a lot. So you set the scene, right? You sowed the seed and they're starting to consider it. They're more aware of the brand now. But that last click, that's the bit that gets me. I don't think the publishers have masterminded the fact that we still give the last bit back to the core platforms and we haven't been able to win out there yet.
Yeah. I want to talk about the third part, which is premiumization. Where does that play a role on the commerce side?
That plays a role in like my heritage of programmatic. Okay. Like it was sort of going back 10 years is like commerce was coming through, but affiliates, programmatic was really establishing itself. Like AdX launched and, you know, the wild west of programmatic occurred. And that then became like a more is more game, right? You find many like publishers were creating a scaled advertising request ecosystem. You lost the relationship with the brands themselves. Everything became third party and you didn't really know how to optimize it apart from like ad tech.
Right.
And so what you find is as you navigate as a consumer now across the web, there's like high ad density, there's made for advertising websites. It's become a bit murky. And so for me, premiumization is about taking it back in hand as a consumer, optimizing for the user experience. Like give them video if they love video, give them display ads if they love display ads, give them like less of what they don't like and more of what they do.
Yeah. And
like, really creating that personalization. Again, that sort of takes me all the way back to commerce. If they love shopping content, let them see more shopping content. If they don't, and they just literally like averse to doing anything online, like my parents are, I think there's a certain generation who has sort of a stigma against buying online.
Yeah.
Give them less and populate the news content. So for us, it's about a perfect balance of what does the revenue per user look like and how do you do it in a way that you're not to the detriment of that user experience?
Yeah. How do you think about value and volume, right? Because that's a big one. And then also oversaturation of a product, right? Brands get excited and they're like, keep running. And then you see diminishing result. Like, how do you guys factor all of that in?
Yeah, same way, value over volume, perfect example of like programmatic, right? Of like it's sort of a saturation of like performance-led media marketing. You see the same ad over and over again, and it just has a diminishing return. And that happens in the same way as commerce, right? If we keep pushing the same content over and over, it loses its engagement. So it's important that you diversify with different advertiser integrations or that have unique demand sources. I'm a really fan of that. Like I don't want to plug in everybody who's got the same demand. So it's important that our connections have unique demand. From a content perspective for shopper-led solutions, it's about, you know, optimizing the headlines, making sure you've got unique imagery, making sure you're doing consumer-first examples or your own reviews. And then if it doesn't work, kill it. You can't hold on to something that's like not working.
Yeah. So that's a great question. So do you guys go in and look at optimization of things, whether they're working or not working? Like, will you go back an article that pushed, didn't quite convert? Are you just hey, let's move on? Or like, hey, let's try a new headline. Let's try a new angle. Let's try a new approach. Like, how do you think about that side of it? Because editors and writers, we're not perfect, right? Like I'll create an episode that I think is going to be the best episode ever and it doesn't work. And so we're trading out thumbnails. We're trading out titles. We're trying to work that content. Is there anything going back to content? Or is it just like, nope, this is our piece. We stand by it. We love it.
We are obsessed with data. And I think that's, again, goes back to sort of my heritage in like advertising and programmatic into commerce. It's obsessive. So we can see every touch point of a page. We can see where consumers are hovering for the most time. We can see where eyeballs are. We can see what modules on that page are creating the interaction, whether the headline is working. And then we tweak and tweak. We publish like between 800 and 1,000 articles a day. We treat commerce in the same way, right? Yeah. If it's popular now, it stays up for longer. If it's not, we take it down. We try it again. We'll turn it off. We have like pacing reports. So you can also see if something's getting a bit stale. And then we might slice it up differently and push it back out onto TikTok, or we might push it back out into a YouTube short, but we'll take it off the website itself. So we cannot afford for anything to get boring. Yeah. And we cannot, if it's not working, we also would be very like forthcoming with the client and just explain like what's happening there.
Yeah. But do you have the data to back all that up?
We have the data. We don't have the conversion data. It comes back to that last thing. I really want the purchase data so we could do better optimizations. I really need the market to, I want someone here to come up to me now, but Hannah, I haven't.
You can track it through the purchase event.
Drop this tag down and you can see everything. That would be amazing.
That would be amazing because then you would really know what's going on.
Yeah, and especially with licensing, if you think like social licensing, you take the content we're doing, it's really compelling, you see a huge uplift in conversion, you can buy it through our account if you want to. I still don't see the conversion data. So I then can't optimize from like, what does the advertising look like? I can't create audience retargeting, which I think is a huge move for commerce in like the agency space because they can bring the two together from content to display advertising or video advertising.
Right.
300 million people, we should be retargeting them.
You should be. Yeah. And leveraging that. I love that. You guys are really unique. You're great storytellers, but you also have to be performance driven at the same time. How do you balance those two aspects? That we want to tell a great story. We want our writers to have the freedom to write the best story possible, but it also has to convert at the end of the day.
Yeah, it comes back to like working with the brands that resonate with our consumers. Like we have really popular brands or fly within like hours, and we've outpaced everything we needed to, and we can upsell. It's a brilliant upsell opportunity. But if it's not working, it's just not worth it. Yeah. And even if it's not working, it's not worth it putting out to PPC either, because it's just not what we do. We'd rather give it back to them and to run their own performance budget. So yeah, we optimize everything the same way we do core editorial. We integrate directly as well. It's actually really important to say that more recently, the relationships of how commerce, one works obviously for the brands. It's all about ROAS, but for the editorial team who are writing about their own brand recommendations that might not necessarily have been linked in the past, they're starting to link now because it's all about consumer convenience. So every click is valuable to a consumer rather than them taking it out to Google or to Amazon to go and search for themselves. They just want to click from the publisher website. To see a huge uplift in like the overall value of our articles when we do link. And I think it's actually just a really valuable journey for the consumer.
Definitely. And with all the data you're getting and that consumer journey, are there any consumer trends that you started to see maybe end of 2024 going into 25? Like just anything on the consumer side, are you seeing the shift to, more AI-based search? Is there anything in the Google Analytics that's telling you like traffic's coming from different sources? Like just anything fun on the consumer side that is interesting and worth note?
The consumer side, actually, we have a really significant community. They love to comment on the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
So whenever we're doing something around product, they love to come forward and tell us what they don't like, what they do like, what they want to see more of. And actually feeding that back to the brands is a brilliant way for them to productize themselves of like, what is it the consumers are seeking? What's the next product look like? We had a partnership with a toothbrush brand. It was really interesting. Everybody just kept commenting in to say, we'd like a different side of toothbrush head, or we want to change the colors of it. And actually just giving that like feedback back to the
from actual people that are reading the content, actual shoppers.
Focus groups straight off the bat of the content has been created for them. So that's been a really interesting trend to feed it back into the brands to help them productize more effectively. And of course, then they come back in, they can target those consumers and you get a brilliant upsell. But yeah, not from traffic. Traffic, obviously like the emergence of TikTok has been huge in the last couple of years. Potentially an impending risk there. We do find that we have popular content on Google. We don't necessarily write for Google because you felt that didn't like focus on our audience engagement metrics. It was more about a volume game, which is not fundamentally what we're not doing.
Right.
So yeah, and then nothing trends. Pinterest is starting to trend. It's an interesting one to watch. Yeah. Reddit is starting to trend, but back into community, which you have an affiliation with. So that will be popular too.
Yeah. I do want to talk about TikTok, right? 24 million followers over there. That's a huge audience. That's bigger than most publishers' audiences, and it's on TikTok. What do you think? A, two-part question. What's working there that's kind of exciting? But B, how are you thinking about the impending risks of building on borrowed land that might not be there tomorrow?
It's like we got in early. We tend to get in early. We see a trend, we jump on it. We try until we hit it. We did that with Snapchat. We were like the first publisher on Discover in 2014. We obviously got to our 24 million followers in the same approach really to TikTok of slicing and dicing into seeing what works. Again, we went after talent. We got talented individuals in that team, sizable team, young individuals who are like influencers in their own right. And that was really important. Yeah. So they know what's working. We take the same approach to our commerce content, and we have a shopping finder channel. Like it's really like important that we show what we see to be valuable to our audiences and give them our recommendations and guides and how-tos. It's also really important. Impending risk, never like, I mean, there's an analogy that I like to use of like if you build on someone else's land, like and you don't own it, you've got a risk. Like they can sell it off, they can knock it down, they can build something bigger. We see that a lot for some.
Right. Well, we all saw this with Facebook, a couple of years ago. We're seeing it like it's the ebbs and flows, right?
Exactly. But I mean, that audience, if there was a ban and TikTok shuts down, Like the audience aren't going to just stop spending time online.
They're going to find you in
so find new ways. We'll be there. We'll be right there.
Yeah. Something you've touched on this a few times, so I do want to talk about it real quick, is team and finding these amazing team members that understand platforms, vertical, like all things. How are you seeing also like talent shift? Because, 5 years ago, you were hiring someone for a very specific role. Now, like for us, like we're hiring people that can shoot a video, edit a video, publish a video, and then they can also do a thumbnail. And like, there's these like multi-skilled folks. Like, do you think of it that way? Do you think about specific roles? How do you think about building team in 2025?
We still think, definitely we're building a sales team. That surprised me with commerce. Like you have pockets of individuals across sales divisions in the whole organization of DMG Media. And commerce is a really like an evolving space for sales. And it's a whole, it was like explaining to somebody internally recently that, it's a different group of agencies and not like the holdcos, and it's PRs that are evolving too. And then the brands who've got a narrative around it, who just want to be involved, working with the networks, which is kind of like the ad tech space or programmatic. So it's a concurrent evolution of sales narrative. And I think that's really important. So we're staffing up there considerably. From the content creator side, it still comes back to you need a great storyteller. And I think you definitely need that by platform. So I don't have someone who's like a one size fits all, from a really compelling article to maybe a podcast into a TikTok video or a YouTube short. We don't have that. I'll have individuals who are talented in each area who can take a story and make it popular on their culture, on their platform.
Yeah, they own those platforms and they go on those platforms.
Comes to the cost.
Yeah, it does, but you're finding experts.
Like diversifying, yeah.
I love that. Let's do some rapid fire.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
What's a trend in publishing right now that is maybe underestimated?
Licensing of content. I see it all the time. You might do too. Like you go onto social, like as seen on the Mail Online or as seen on Daily Mail, and you think, well, we're not liable for that. You're just taking it. Yeah. But the content's obviously working and popular. And I feel like actually leveraging the power of our content and giving it over to the brand to activate against is something that will be incredibly immersive moving forward.
That's a big one. I like that. That's a good one. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. I'll throw Snapchat in there because you said it a few times. If you were going to start building on one channel today from scratch, where would you invest the time, dollars, resources?
Great question. I think it depends. If you're mass, go everywhere. You have to try and work out what sticks. If you're niche and you've got a loyal audience following, I'd probably be going for YouTube because that is all about an audience engagement metric. The problem with that is that you don't own the monetization. Yeah. So it depends what you're looking for.
Yeah. Got to pick your...
Instagram, Creator Lab that they're launching. So if you are the original publishers or creators, if you've got a mass team of influencers who are creating really compelling content, pitch yourself in. Like it shouldn't just be individual contributors or influencers on those platforms. Publishers should be right there. So push for that too.
I agree with you. Publishers should be leading the charge. What's a mistake publishers make when trying to monetize their audience?
No, they forget about the audience.
They just see dollars.
You see dollars, like RPMs over RPUs. You've got to think about your users and the value behind the user. If the user is worth less at a page level but consumes 5 times more pages, think about the revenue per user.
That was big. That was basically the genesis of our whole conversation is user first, right? Reader first, and then build everything around that because they support your business.
To the consumer.
Yeah, you don't get hundreds of millions of people if you don't care about them and their needs and put their needs first. Makes it much easier to monetize too when you have a big audience. What's one commerce opportunity that publishers are sleeping on?
Do we sleep? Do we really sleep?
Yeah,
Are we sleeping on anything? We all have nightmares. What are we sleeping on? Retail media networks. Let's break out of the walled garden. Let's unlock the inventory. Let's showcase the power of our first party data. Let's index against the shopper content and make it work for the retail media networks.
I love that. As we wrap up, where can people hang out with you, maybe learn more about what you're up to? And then if we're going to go down a Daily Mail rabbit hole, where should we start? Is it TikTok and joining what's going on TikTok? Is it the website? Is it email? Where should we begin our journey? Everywhere. Join them all. Subscribe everywhere.
Yeah. So, we're really popular. We're doing a lot on LinkedIn now. So if you want to see what we're doing, what our strategies are, follow me on LinkedIn, follow DMG Media on LinkedIn. You'll get a good feel and a sense of what we're trying to achieve. We've got a really clear strategy, so it's really brilliant to be able to talk about it. So thank you for today.
Yeah.
I think, where do you find me? I'm in New York quite a lot. So every 6 weeks I'm over. I'd love to open up my network and speak to some great people. I think networking is the most important thing to really help us innovate and grow.
Yeah.
And did I answer your questions?
You did. Totally.
Okay.
All of that will be in the show notes below. Make sure you check it out. If you got some value from what Hannah brought in this episode, make sure you tag her on LinkedIn and say thank you for a great episode in all the good places where you can find this podcast. Drop a comment. Thanks so much for hanging out.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed the rest of your show.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, it was so much fun. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. We'll see you in the next one.